everyone tonight. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. I know I had a great weekend, got a lot accomplished, and I'm hoping that you guys had a fantastic weekend as well. Well, remember when I said last week that I actually made a milestone? I got shut down, or one of my videos got shut down on YouTube. The second video I recorded, it actually did. But guess what? They didn't find the saved version of it that's actually still on the account. So let's just kind of keep our mouths a little bit buttoned. But interestingly enough, it was the video on the died suddenly. So I guess they don't like the truth when it comes out, right? Hey, so I guess that's a mark on the wall. I don't know if that's the record, but it's definitely a record for me. So I'm kind of excited about all that. So that just goes to show that the truth haters do exist out there, and YouTube happens to be one of them. But we're still live streaming, and so far they haven't shut the account down, and we should be good. And as far as I know, I am not on probation yet. So we'll see what happens in the coming future. I'm not going to do any holds barred. I'm not worried. But let it be a lesson that we need to actually get that Rumble going. So please like or subscribe to me on the Rumble page. And again, I will bring that up in a minute here. As for I got some exciting news for Friday. I've made arrangements for an interview, and it's a really good friend of mine, and I think you will quite enjoy her. So I'm not going to give you any details yet about it, but I probably will on Wednesday. If I do have room for an interview on Wednesday, so far, I am going to be checking into a couple. But if you're interested in telling your story, you don't have to be professional. You can be anyone where the last few years, or the last couple of years, I guess it's almost 3 years now, has deeply affected you in some way or another, especially if it's your health. I do want to hear from you. I do want to hear your story. And like I said, there are ways that you don't have to have your face on there, and we can even give you a fictitious name on there. But you just tell your story. We can actually turn off your video so that you don't have to actually be seen if you're a little bit worried about actually being seen on the video. Not to worry, but we just want to get your story out there. So just want you guys to know that we will do every precautions we need to, but people need to hear the stories. They need to hear if you've been vaccine injured, if you've been lost your job or anything, we want to hear from you. We want to, if you've had to shut down your business because of it, we want to hear from you. Tell us your story. You can just email us at tellyourstory.canada@gmail.com. And no, it doesn't have to be from Canada. It can be from anywhere. So please let us know. So before we move on, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to look at our sponsors here. First of all, the Choice Network. I've told you every time, just give them a check out. If you are looking for coverage for holistic services that you don't normally get with your regular health insurance, or you just need coverage in general, check them out because they're a little bit different. They kind of form more like a cooperative. They're kind of around a cooperative there. With that kind of a model, it enables them to cover more services. Their only limitation is the professionals in the system. So whether you're a client or you're a professional, give them a check out. Go to thechoicenetwork.net/CV. That's our own special link, thechoicenetwork.net/CV, and go to coupon code CVitality10. Or when you go to sign up, type in that CVitality10, and that will give you 10% off on your membership fees. There is plenty of ways to contact them, and you can connect. And if you want to talk personally on Zoom or whatever with someone will be happy to give you an overview of it. So not a big deal. Also, you can, where am I here? You can go on, you can also check out imatterwellness.ca. They're sleuthing out your wellness needs. They find out what your body needs to stay healthy. So you can book an appointment online. You just visit imatterwellness.ca. They do work virtually, so not to worry. And lastly, our last sponsor here is Pre-Search. Now, Pre-Search is a better way of searching. Google controls what you get back. DuckDuckGo is starting to now be the big tech that's censoring as well. So you may think you have anonymity in DuckDuckGo, but for some reason they're starting to censor as well. Rethink how you were searching on the internet. I've been using Pre-Search for probably almost 2 years now. And often if I'm looking, especially if I'm looking for both sides of the coin, I use Pre-Search. And as I said, before, my health websites, which hardly ever show up on Google anymore, they used to all the time. Since the pandemic, I get very few pages on there anymore. And Pre-Search, all my pages seem to show up on there. So spread it around, spread Pre-Search around. Now, go in there, get an account, you'll get a referral link, and you can spread it all around, and you can spread it to all your friends. You do earn crypto, a little bit of crypto every time you search, but the best thing about it is you send in the search, they strip any identification off of you and send it to their search nodes, and then they return your search parameters back to you. So you don't have to worry about being found out what you're searching. If anything, is the other thing I use it for, if I don't want to be identified by Google for searching a certain topic, I go to Pre-Search. Sometimes I just need to go to research and find out what it's all about because there's some things that I'm very naive on. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, and Rumble. Now, I have just set up a BitChute account. I don't have it fully set up yet. I will set that up to a point where I can, where you guys can be able to take a look, and where guys will be able to go on it hopefully by Wednesday. I just need to upload some of our past videos. I don't think you can stream on it, but we can at least get our past videos up on there. And if you guys prefer to go to BitChute, then you can watch them on BitChute. As for Rumble, let's like Rumble, or let's subscribe to Rumble so we can start streaming there. I have to have so many subscribers, plus I have to pay an upgrade fee before I can stream to it. But Rumble is a definite possibility where we want to stream. I'm struggling with Twitter. I can't seem to stream on Twitter right now. So I am sharing a YouTube or a Rumble link at a later time with Twitter, so not to worry. So we do get it up just much later on Twitter. And lastly, if you have a story to tell, like I just said earlier, or you have a news tip, or you're a professional that you want to be featured on here at some point, give us a shout. Tell your story.canada@gmail.com. We do want to hear from you. We want to start telling more stories and let people use this as a platform to get their story out. Just as a little bit of a story behind this. I myself, if you go back to our first broadcast, I talked a little bit about my story. And my story, I had a lot of, I actually worked in healthcare. Now, I have both a holistic and an actual healthcare background in my experiences here. I worked for 30 years in medical lab. And honestly, I chose not to vaccinate. Now, a couple things out of that. First of all, my my coworkers were very supportive of me. They realized I had a health condition. I don't know if they knew all the details. I was willing to tell them. I never had a problem. I did not hide it. But they they were I mean, we were short-staffed. What can I say? Anyhow, I ended up leaving, and I talked about my story a little bit on the first airing, which was I think it was it a week ago? No, it was probably 2 weeks ago now. Oh, it's hard to believe we've been airing that long already, guys. Unbelievable, 2 weeks now. So, I did go back a couple weeks, and you will on our very first airing, you will hear a little bit about my story. Um, I have to say, I believe I've been vaccine damaged, and, I've had a vaccine injury, I should say. That's more correct. And unfortunately, doctors will not acknowledge it. They told me vaccines don't do that, but I have actually found scientific proof in the form of studies that actually indicate that it does do that. And it took me a while to find them, but I found it. Anyhow, I'm not going to go into details about that right now. Maybe that's at a later date. But I can tell you, I had a doctor that was wanting to actually give me, advised me originally to stay away from the shot. When she went to go give me an actual, I went in for an actual exemption letter. She went to the MHO. MHO refused her the ability to actually give it to me. So, meanwhile, my profession or my bosses basically rode my butt. Not necessarily from a medical standpoint, but they rode it and they rode it and they rode it hard to the point where they actually told me I had a mental health disorder at one point based on something else, but they found fault with everything I did. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about that, but I might make a little bit more reference later on tonight. So if you have a story like that, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you have a story like that, please tell us. We can make allowances to try to keep you hidden, but we do want you to get your story out. And I want you guys to use this platform to do so. Now, the one we have on Wednesday isn't so much like that. It's something else that you guys need to hear too. And we will hopefully release some more details later on in the week. So stay in tune on our website and which is choicevitality.com. Stay in tune on our social media, and hopefully more information will be coming down the tubes later. So thank you guys. Anyways, tonight we don't have a whole lot in store, and it's kind of all over the board again, kind of like Friday. But I did promise you guys I was going to cover a little bit or talk about a little bit about Trudeau and his testimony. And there's been a lot of comments coming out, and he's been recorded saying some lies on the testimony. We all know those lies. They were very, I'm not going to actually replay the lies, but we've all seen the lies in his speeches. So anyhow, I am going to go ahead and we are going to, one sec here. I'm going to play a recap here. Just one sec here. A recap from, it's not that quick a video, but it is a video of stuff both items in that I have broadcasted about already in this past week or so. So we will put this up. I want to here we go. You know what? I am going to actually reload that because the sound seems to go off on this if I don't do anything on it. So we'll start here. Of course, it's going to give me the ad. I'm so sorry, guys.
Be sure to check the links out below to 7.
The Canadian government in British Columbia is trying to pass legislation that will recreate how oversight bodies regulate healthcare and alternative medicine. Certain details of this legislation are undisclosed and will remain so until the government passes it into law. But what we do know about Bill C-36 is bad enough. This bill gives the government of British Columbia the power to mandate vaccines for any illness the government so chooses. It gives the government the power to censor anyone who challenges their narrative on anything, allowing the government power to seize an individual's property, fine them for up to $200,000, and
I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's see what we can do here.
$17.76.
Guys.
1776.
Carry on.
At 1776coin.com, you can get our
It's not going
the
to.
Canadian government in British Columbia.
Anyhow, basically, I'm sorry, I'm having technical issues here, guys. I really apologize for that. I'm going to stop the share. Anyways, this was talking a little bit about more about first of all, it was talking a little bit more about the whole the Bill 36 in British Columbia. I was talking to a friend over the weekend who posted a blog article. She didn't refer exactly to this Bill 36, but she did refer to things that were in the Bill 36. So I started asking her more questions because she's in BC, and asked her, I wanted to know a little bit more, and because I wasn't fully understanding whether it was only mainstream healthcare professionals or whether it was a holistic. Apparently it is holistic, which this video kind of outlined a little bit. But talking to her, it's all controlled holistic professions. So those like chiropractic, possibly acupuncturists, RMTs and stuff like that. It does include them. And it also allows them to invade their property if they see fit, and fine them up to $200,000. That chance they're going to get it from me, they'll probably end up throwing me in jail because a bill does allow for that. And I wanted just to kind of elaborate more. I did kind of find out a little bit of that information, and that's what that video starts to talk about. So yes, it did talk a little bit deeper about that. So those of you guys that are in that, if there's any petitions to be signed against it, sign them. Protest or whatever, protests against it, go take part in them, do whatever you can, send letters to your government, whatever you can to try and show them that this will not be accepted. Now, luckily, the profession I am in, not my lab profession, but my holistic profession, we are so far, won't fall under that umbrella. I can't comment anymore. And that's why I was kind of asking my friend a little bit more, because I don't live in BC. I don't know. But she did infer that they are going to try and implement this across Canada. Or there is talk about or push to actually implement it eventually across Canada. So guys, BC, eyes are all on you guys. So work to quash this so it doesn't come across Canada. We really need that quashed. And it actually does concern me in certain areas. I have friends that are just starting their careers in the lab and everything. And I know some that are starting their careers right away and chose not to be vaccinated. I have a real concern for them, even though I'm trying to leave the profession. I have very big concern for those that are just coming into the profession that have chose not to take the jab. So if it comes this way, that's scary. I know I kind of combed our website to see if that's a requirement in Saskatchewan because my registration is actually due in 2 days and I'm on this dilemma. Do I renew? Do I not? Do I renew? Do I not? Renewal, I might just renew it for 1 more year just in case, but it gives me the ability to say I'm an MLT. And that's the only thing the renewal is going to give me the ability to. Plus, I have a business that I can still claim hours on with that MLT position. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens whether this does come as far as Saskatchewan. I know as a rapid COVID tester, they've already tried to implement stuff like that in Saskatchewan. I was actually an approved rapid COVID tester for the Ministry of Health in Saskatchewan. They've removed all those from the website, at least as far as I can see. They have removed them. And in January of this year, they sent out a notification saying that in order for us to proceed, we had to send in not only our verification of that we were vaxxed, but we had to send in our proof. But I was supposed to send in all of my clients' proof of vax to them. And that I had no choice. I had to basically illegally send in private information on all my employees. And I had a big problem with that. I actually wrote them a big long letter quoting legislation from both Canadian and Saskatchewan viewpoints or levels of government. And I said, not only that, I said, you're asking me to submit it. All of my employees are also my clients. I said, and you're asking me to submit in their private information, which could cause me to lose my license as in the SSMLT. And they, all of a sudden, 2 days later, they sent an email back. And I imagine I wasn't the only one that sent this in. But they sent an email back and says, we decided to remove that out. And so once that was removed out, everything else I was willing to comply with. And that's, and I complied. I no sooner had it reinstated. And then all of a sudden, on the 8th of February, we got notification that the program was no longer available because Premier Mo had shut it down, the testing. So, and the only reason I got into it was to make it affordable for people in the area that were work, and that's all I really did. I really didn't make a whole lot on it, but it was there for me to it was there as a favor to everyone else. And believe me, I had a lot of friends that were unable to that chose not to take the jab, and I wanted to be able to make it available for them on a cheaper basis, because basically the ministry or the government was trying to say that they are going to have to pay up to $100 a shot for their tests 3 times a week, and that wasn't exactly fair. So that's why I did that. Anyways, that video goes on to talk about that mental health thing, and whereas Ontario government is not the Ontario government. The College of Physicians in Ontario was recommending vaccination or the unvaccinated to be treated as mentally ill and should receive treatment. There is finally a backlash against it. I'll just do real quick. I'll show it to you here. There is finally a backlash here on that. This isn't it still is a disappointment because it's not even the main sites, but they are saying that this is not what we said. The answer was later clarified to cite I think that's the fear of needles, guys. you know what? I'm not even going to attempt to say that word. But they have gone on to, I have not seen it where that wasn't there. So from what I gather, this was actually, uh, this part here was probably put in after, so it didn't look like that they were stating that unvaccinated had a problem. Now, going back into this other part, what I'm going to read this first paragraph here. This is just a summary here. The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, which regulate medical practice in that Canadian province, includes a frequently asked question page on its website. One answer provided a guidance for handling requests from patients who sought doctor's notes for medical exemption from the COVID-19. See, the thing is, I want to make a comment. I'm speaking from the experience from Saskatchewan. The only way you can get a medical exemption, at least several months ago, was you had to have had an adverse effect, or you had to have, I think, anaphylactic reactions or something, or an allergy or something. And that was the only reason. And my issue was I have damage from vaccines to my magnesium metabolism, which has led to seizures and everything else. They didn't accept that. They also did not accept, the SHA did not accept my religious exemption. And this is crazy. They didn't accept my religious exemption based on the fact that I am a Christian. And apparently, and this is what I was told by CUPE, and I'm going to name them. Now, I'm not sure who told them this, what person, but basically they were told by SHA, and in a way this is hearsay, but this is what my representative said. They were told by SHA that because, and I was doing it on the basis of aborted fetal cells in it, and SHA apparently told them that because churches allow sinners, like people who've had an abortion, into the church, that is not allowed. That is not that gives them grounds for not accepting an exemption. That is unbelievable that they said that. Now, I'm sorry, but any church is going to welcome sinners and help guide them through anything. That is a very poor excuse, but that's basically the excuse that they gave. If they can't accept an exemption for aborted fetal tissue or cells in it because the church allows people who've had an abortion come to church, come and be members of the church. Well, yeah, we reach out to those who are in need, and it doesn't matter where they come from. We open our arms to everyone. So I really had a big issue with that one, and I didn't even know how to fight that. I was just dumbfounded and flabbergasted that I received that information from CUPE. And that comes from CUPE, SAS CUPE. And I'm not going to criticize them for it because they received the information from SHA, but SHA has really got to watch their words if they're going to say that. So anyhow, the next thing, can't believe it's already 8:30, guys. Where am I here? I'm going to go in. And the next item I wanted to talk to you about was, no, that's not it. Just a sec here. So I wanted to go into the convoy stuff here. We're going to go into this one first, and I'm going to ask you the video. So I told you I didn't have a chance to go through Justin Trudeau's testimony, but I am going to play this. It's about probably most of this. This is about 8 minutes. And this is, I believe this is this the closing statements? Yeah, I think so.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Eva Chipyuk. I am one of the lawyers representing Freedom Corp and the protesters who were here in Ottawa in January and February 2022. Mr. Commissioner, friends, Canadians listening to this public inquiry into the government's decision to invoke the Emergencies Act for the first time in history. You will remember on the first day of this public inquiry, our lead counsel, Brendan Miller, in his opening statement spoke about the evidence and threshold required for invoking the Emergencies Act. Mr. Miller set out each element of the test for invoking the Emergencies Act and then predicted that there would be no evidence to support any of the factors required to invoke the Act. I would like to restate Mr. Miller's opening statement and add to it what evidence in fact came out. It is our view that there was no justification whatsoever to invoke the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act requires several things. One, it could be invoked due to espionage and sabotage. Did you hear any evidence about espionage and sabotage? The answer is no. Two, it could be invoked on the basis of clandestine or deceptive foreign influence, or foreign influence that involves the threat to a person. Did you hear evidence about that? The answer is no. It also could be invoked on the basis of threats or use of acts of serious violence against persons or property. Did you hear evidence of violence against persons or property? The answer is no. Lastly, it can also be invoked if there is a group or persons trying to destroy or overthrow by violence the system of government of Canada. Did you hear evidence about individuals trying to do that? The answer is no. And the answer is there was no reasonable and probable grounds to invoke the Emergencies Act, and the government exceeded their jurisdiction both constitutionally and legislatively in doing so. In using the Emergencies Act, which gifts the government with extraordinary powers, the Government of Canada chose use of force, that is state violence, over peaceful negotiations and democratic engagement with the Canadian people. The sad irony is that the protest in Ottawa was fundamentally about government overreach. Canadians felt that the current government had gone too far with the COVID-19 mandates. The government's response to the protest by invoking the Emergencies Act was a further reach in power over people instead of power by the people. In response to the unprecedented unison of voices of many Canadians, including a voice by way of millions in donations to the cause, the Government of Canada refused to engage and listen to the people. Instead, by invoking the Emergencies Act, the government stepped even further into their oppressive governments by quashing the most fundamental right that belongs to a Canadian democracy. That is to come together in their nation's capital, in front of Parliament, to engage in dialogue with their elected officials.
And I'm going to stop it right here. So that is just kind of that was kind of the closing statements in there. And that article talks a little bit about that. I have seen video footage where that lawyer actually asked him about the lies, about the calling Canadians misogynists and racists and stuff like that, and he flat out denied it. And I wish I had that clip right now, but apparently he flat out denied it on the in the public hearing. So, which was basically perjury, because we all have video proof that he's called the unvaccinated misogynists and racists. Other things came out that it was quite interesting. The one theme that we actually saw with all the government officials in the last week, and I don't know if I commented on this or not last week, but it was, we fear that further action would bring a violent violent response. They were they were trying to say that they feared a violent response from everyone. Those of us who actually saw the video coming from the front line did not see anything. In fact, all we saw was people go lined up in front of the police and singing "No Canada." Is that violent? I don't think so. And those that might have been a little bit irritated, they were taken down by the Canadians themselves, but they weren't actually people that were actually trying to fight. We did see the only major violence, physical violence we saw was all coming from the police. So very interesting. Quick comment. I know this happened to myself and a few others, but by enacting that Emergencies Act, it gave the bank community the right as well to freeze any account they wanted. I had accounts froze. In fact, I just got a nasty little letter today over those accounts that they tried to freeze. Not particularly about the frozen account part, but it was to do with those accounts. And that happened after the Emergencies Act was enacted. And I'm not the only one that I heard that from. There was no monies going out of that account that were supported to the GoFundMe or anything, but they did freeze my accounts. And even if I did support it, I probably would have only have done $10 from a prepaid card so that I wouldn't have been flagged, but just so I could get updates from it. That would have been all I did. Even a lawyer, one of the lawyers from the Justice Center actually stated that he did that. He put like $10 or $15 on it just so he could get the updates. And that was before he started representing the convoy leaders in there. So interestingly enough, I have heard that this has happened to several people. And I've also heard that the Farm Credit Corporation was actively going after and pursuing farmers that supported the convoy, and either calling in their loans or jacking up the interest rates and forcing them to forfeit on it. So this was actually a news article I saw a few months ago. I was pretty upset when I actually saw that. So yeah. Anyways, I wanted to actually show you that, and I have another one on that. You might find this kind of interesting. It's also to do with Trudeau and where is it? Which one is it? I'm kind of jumping all over the place, and I'm sorry, guys. That wasn't the other one. No. There's a couple here on Trudeau here, and okay, yeah, it's this one right here. So interestingly, I'm going to play a video here, but this is a really interesting article. Obviously, I was going through it here, so I wasn't up at the top. This is what Trudeau really feared about the convoy, and about the convoy was its organizing abilities. This is really quite interesting because a few things I want to point out here. I kind of laughed. I thought it was hilarious, but it's true. It is possible that the Freedom Convoy, Trudeau's team, saw a real growing opposition gaining support from millions of Canadian voters and taxpayers. The convoy, listen to this, the convoy raised $10 million in only a few weeks. And when the government succeeded in freezing the truckers' GoFundMe account, convoy organizers turned around and raised billions again in the Give, Send, Go platform. The fact they in fact raised more money in 1 month than the Liberal Party has raised in the entire year of 2020. Isn't that hilarious, guys? That alone was enough to trigger fear in Trudeau. Hey, that's frighteningly impressive fundraising ability demonstrated by a brand new group with no political track record. In fact, they're not claiming to be political in any way. The truckers have more than an astonishing ability to raise funds. They also enjoyed the support of millions of Canadians from sea to shining sea across Canada. The bridges were full of hardworking Canadians waving flags and cheering the truckers on. In my own GTA community, the bridge over the 401 was lined up with parents, kids, blue-collar workers, and laptop loaners. Our local Canada Post delivery person in her Canada Post van, it's amazing, guys. So I just wanted to print this out. It goes down to say down here is in January 2022, I interviewed, let's see, a couple things stand out that a 31% support for the truckers' protest is far higher than a number of people that are actually hostile and hesitant towards the vaccine, which is in the single digits. At 31%, you're way above that. And it's still the minority point of view, but at 46%, there's not a majority that oppose. It's what we call a plurality. It's not a majority. So remember, Trudeau won his election in 2021 election with only 32% of the vote. Less than 1 in 3 voters, fewer than 1 in 7 Canadians voted for Trudeau's Liberals. And that is true because the popular vote actually went to the Conservative vote, the Conservatives. Now, the popular vote went there, but the way our system is rigged, Trudeau still won because the majority of his seats were in the East. The East is more populated than the West. So yeah, that's what happened. But it didn't take much for him to win those seats, right? Yet the popular vote, when you coupled that with what was in the West, the popular vote was actually far greater than what Trudeau had actually won. So it's supposed to be popular. You're supposed to be by population. It does not work that way. So very interesting. I'm going to include these, you guys, and providing they don't get flagged on Facebook, because I have had the odd one flag. Now I want to go back to a couple of health things here. This is one thing I found out here, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit from a lab tech point of view here. Just got to find out where it is here. Oh, okay, right here. So patients wait for Pap test results as labs juggle high demand staff shortage. Now, they're blaming it on pandemic backlogs, and maybe there is a little bit to do with that, but somehow I find that really questionable because for how long were we actually seeing doctors by phone appointment? That meant they couldn't do a Pap smear. In fact, it was several months before I could go in to get my Pap smear. And I have to say that I don't think I even got it till the next year. So I really question if this is pandemic related, but I can say there are long-term staff shortages, both leading to lab processing delays. First of all, this is in general in all of the lab. For instance, do you realize up until a few years ago, they were only maybe having 15 or 16 seats in the Saskatchewan lab program? Now they're talking more about out east here, but Saskatchewan in general for general lab. Now that's what I'm certified in, is the general lab. And cytology, which is what does the Pap smears, is actually a little bit of a specialty, but you do have to have your general lab before you go on to become a cytologist or a cytotechnologist. I think that's the proper name. I think that's what they properly call them now. And Regina in Saskatchewan used to do that training years ago when I trained 30 years ago in the Pasco Hospital. I don't know if it ever moved to the general or not. I really don't know. It might have. I don't know if when things got juggled around, I don't know what went where, but I can say that in the general lab in general, and bear in mind that you have to have your general lab background before you can go on to become a cytotechnologist. We are facing an all-time shortage because there's more people retiring now than there is coming out of these programs. And when we do get them, what's happening is they get sucked up because they're so short, they get sucked up in the big city, and then the rural areas are even getting less. And it's really making it difficult. So yeah, this is a plug for those that are looking into going into this area of expertise. They have apparently bumped those seats up. I'm not sure if it's 35, 45, somewhere in there. But I can tell you when I went through our opening day, we had 67 people. And I think we probably had less than 40 that actually graduated because it is a tough course. I will admit, it is very tough. I think a few years before I went through, they actually had over 100 people in the course. So that I can attest to that. Now, this goes on and talks about there only being one place that actually trains now, and that's apparently out east, which is really crazy. But they're saying that they are now behind, and some people are waiting a long time to get your results. I do recognize the one on the left as being abnormal, but I don't know enough about it because I only spent a day in cytotech in the cytology area back 30 years ago. I can tell you those are squamous epithelial cells. A form of squamous, they look like a form of squamous. There's cervical cell samples, and that looks fairly normal to me in that picture. But like they said, there's only one training program left in Canada, and they're trying to blame it on the pandemic, which is one thing I don't buy. So please go through this, see what you think, do some more research. Do I have anything against this? No, except for I question whether this is to do with pandemic backlog when we know that people weren't able to see that. Maybe it is now because people are starting to go in. I don't know. But I do question how much it really is and how much it is more staff shortage in general. So, and and I just want to show you one more thing, and this is not health related. It's my time. Yeah, I'm going to show, but this happened in my community. So I want it a few months ago. So I want to actually share it and have my 2 cents worth in. So Trudeau visits First Nation in Saskatchewan, rocked by stabbings that killed 11. Okay, I live just outside of Weldon. I'm in the community of Weldon. And I am criticizing this as, why did it take him so long to come out there? That's just my question. Maybe I don't need to question it. Maybe I'm doing the wrong attitude, but why? I mean, great, he's come out. Fantastic. But if this is to buy votes, he should have been out here a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a backstory here. This was very tragic, and the fellow in Weldon, I sort of knew, and that's as far as I'm going to go. I don't know him well enough, but I did attend his funeral, his celebration of life, and it was quite a packed place. fairly packed. But I can say one thing is I was so touched because I want to James, there were several people from several leaders from the James Smith Cree Nation and from FSIN and stuff that came out, got up at the very end of the funeral and paid their they got up and they talked. No one expected this to happen. And it brought tears to my eyes. It was so beautiful. They came up, I guess many people in Canistino and Weldon had gone out there to help them in the time of tragedy because they had so many more people that were affected out there. And apparently there, from what I heard, I know there was someone from our church and whatnot. And apparently a few people went out there to provide food and stuff like that and to care for James Smith. And likewise, they came back, and I'm not going to try to cry here. I don't want to cry, guys, but they came back. It was so beautiful. And they got up and they talked at the funeral, and they reminisced on the life of the fellow in Weldon. And they, because they knew him, he had he ran the Zamboni, and he went out. He didn't. I don't know if he had a whole lot of money himself, but he would go out and give people rides when they needed to. They just knew, and they respected him because he was on the town council and stuff like that. And they paid tribute to him, and they got up and they said, we have our own ways, but we invite you guys out to help us bury our last. Well, one, that's our vet. They had one guy that was a vet. And they invited us to come out to help them mourn and celebrate the life of one of theirs. It was just beautiful. It was like two communities coming together, guys. It was so wonderful. And that's the way it should be. It should not be a place for, and I'm not going to say that Trudeau did this, but it's not going to be a place to have a selfie that, okay, yeah, I came out and paid tribute. If you wanted to do that, should have come out during the celebrations of life and been there. That was my thinking. And why wait till now in the winter? But that's just my critical thing. That's my thought process on this. Maybe I'm thinking wrong, but I can say that this tragedy brought two, actually, I would say more than two communities, because there's neighboring communities all around that was actually affected by this, and it did bring a lot of people together. And I do want to comment about that. I just had to get that out. I know it's not health related, but it is in a way. And I'm going to include that article for you guys to read. You may agree with me, you may not. That's okay. But I think it was beautiful. It wasn't a beautiful thing that happened, but something very beautiful came out of the tragedy. And apparently Trudeau was out there today. And why? My question is, why did he wait so long? Maybe there was reasons. Maybe he couldn't arrange the time with the Indigenous leaders. I don't know, but it just doesn't sit with me. That's all. Anyhow, that's pretty much that in a nutshell. I am going to go back in and say, well, I'm going to show you a little bit about our sponsors and again before I sign off. But I want to once again thank you guys for joining us, and I want to invite you guys to come back on Wednesday, and I'm going to remind you that we got an interview coming on Thursday. And if you know of anyone or you want to be interviewed, please send me an email. Even if it's someone you know, send me their contact info. I'd be willing to reach out to them. So we want to hear more about your stories and everything. So anyhow, before I go, we'll just recap the sponsors. We have the Choice Network. Check them out. Like I said, visit thechoicenetwork.net/CV, and there's your there's your C Vitality 10 coupon code. Receive 10% off. Then there's imatterwellness.ca. They're sleuthing out your wellness needs. Book an appointment online. They can work with you virtually. And lastly, rethink how you search on the internet. We want to get this out, guys. More people need to start using pre-search. They are the best, and check them out. All my links are posted in the description, so give them a check out. Anyways, you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you in a couple nights. Talk to you soon. Well, hi everyone.